Welcome, everybody. Tonight on Independence Day, we are grading the president. We're going to bring you more than 20 voters from across the political spectrum to get their thoughts on the Trump presidency so far. We find ourselves roughly halfway through the president's first year, 6 months already packed with his legislative goals, a few misses, some fights with the courts, a skeptical media, and what he calls obstructive Democrats. Now we know that repealing and replacing Obamacare has been delayed yet again until after the 4th of July holiday, and the president is hinting that Congress not reaching a deal is a distinct possibility on this. Watch.
Great. This will be great for everybody. I always say it. I always say it.
I always say yes, because you never quite know, right? So the delay was met with some lawmakers declaring victory, others warning of an Obamacare collapse. Watch.
We know the fight is not over. That is for sure.
I believe we will get to yes. It's going to take more discussions.
As a Republican leader in the Senate pulled his bill, this fight is not over.
If we don't reach agreement by Friday is probably the end of a sole party effort for health care. Then if we don't reach by Friday, then the way forward is, as Obamacare collapses, challenge Democrats to work with us to find something better.
So President Trump never wanted to shy away from calling it as he sees it, sent this. With 0 Democrats to help, and he failed expensive and dangerous Obamacare as the Democrats' legacy, the Republican senators are working hard, exclamation point. We turn now to our bipartisan panel of American voters for their thoughts on this. First of all, welcome to all of you. It's great to have all of you here, sort of representing a lot of variety of opinions out there in the country. So just given what we just talked about and the battle that you saw going on this week in Congress over repealing and replacing Obamacare, who wants to start with their thought? Sir, tell us who you are and where you're from.
Hi, my name is Dr. Darren Porcher. I'm a prior Army officer and former NYPD lieutenant and current criminal justice professor here in New York City. Now, Donald Trump has been very focused on return on his campaign promises, such as the repeal and replacement of Obamacare. However, I don't think he quite thought out the strategy, because when you look at the entitlement spending with this new bill that's been introduced, it far exceeds that of the current Obamacare statute. Therefore, I think it's necessary for him to regress, take some time, sit down with the right people, and come up with something that's significant. I commend the 5 senators that have actually are holding this up. These Republican senators are doing the right thing because they realize the entitlement spending is just too far.
Fascinating. So raise your hand if you agree with that notion. If you feel that Republicans, so this would be if you're a Republican, do you feel that they are compromising too much from what you can tell and that you want the government more removed from your health care? Who would agree with that statement? All right. And what about Democrats who believe that that they want Republicans to sort of come to the middle? Do you think there's any compromise possibility between Democrats and Republicans on this? If you say yes, raise your hand. Tell us who you are.
Michael Hopkins. I'm from D.C. I'm an attorney. I think that Republicans now are trying to basically wipe Obama away from the history books, and it's less about health care and more about trying to rectify the 2008 election, because healthcare is something that's so personal to every American. It seems like there could be a middle ground where Democrats and Republicans can meet, because Obamacare was, it was a Republican idea from the Heritage Foundation before anything else. So it seems to me Republicans are more worried now about a win than actually rectifying our healthcare system.
What do you think?
My name is Kristen. I'm a writer. Yeah, healthcare is personal, and that's why we don't want the government controlling our healthcare. I think this has everything to do with care and not a lot about politics, because if you look at Obamacare, we've seen premiums double since 2013. We've seen deductibles go through the roof. It's a complete disaster. We want the government out. We want more affordable, better care. And unfortunately, I think the Senate health bill is not the best answer. It's not the perfect bill, but it is better than what we have now. So yeah, I would like Republicans to pass it.
It becomes a question of whether or not you believe that the federal government should have control over the health care system. And is health care a right in this country? I mean, that's a basic question. Sir, tell us who you are.
Yeah, my name is Bishop Counsel Ned. I'm a priest and bishop, but I'm also a law enforcement officer. But, you know, I think the mess that President Trump is trying to clean up right now with regard to Obamacare, something needs to be done. Obamacare was a total overreach. I've seen so many people, including myself, who have been affected by the lack of providers, the high costs, and various other things. Something radical needed to be done. You know, what he's doing right now isn't necessarily perfect, but something needs to be done to stem this tide before there's, you know, so many people who just can't afford health insurance and can't find providers.
Are you concerned about the growth of this entitlement? Do you think that Republicans on the Hill are allowing this bill to basically expand Obamacare or extend Obamacare in a way that, you know, do you think that's right or not?
So, you know, I worked on the Capitol Hill for a long time before I moved to Pennsylvania and started doing what I do now. And so, you know, I've seen the Congress operate for a very long time, and, you know, people talk about reform, but it always comes back to people get in office, they go to Washington, and they start putting these various entitlements in. I've seen it happen over and over again. It's just a cyclical thing.
Raise your hand if you are in favor of what you've seen come out of the Republican House and Senate. Nobody.
Kind of. I mean, my name is Diane Atkins. I'm a grassroots activist and team leader for Republican Leadership Initiative for Brooklyn GOP. To what that young man was saying before, I think that's so outrageous to say that this is sort of some referendum against Obama from 2008. You know what? If President Trump really wanted to do the most politically expedient thing, he would let Obamacare completely, as he says, crash and burn, because there are states where people do not even have one plan provider left anymore. People that they say, oh yes, they have health coverage, but the deductibles are so high they cannot ever afford to even use it. So if he wanted to, he should just let it go, and then all of the people would suffer. But because he cares about Americans and he loves this country and he loves our citizens, he's willing to have the arguments, have the debate. And I think it's very healthy that the House and the Senate, that they're, you know, digging their heels in on certain things, have that healthy debate. The media wants to paint it as it's discord. No, it's debate. That's what the Congress is supposed to do. And they'll come up with a final product. It might not be perfect, but it'll be a heck of a lot better than what we have now. And they can move forward and implement more changes going forward.
Sir.
Congress is working in this situation.
Tell us your name, if you would.
I'm sorry. Rocco Limatone. I'm with the East Fiscal Republican Committee, former business owner, and I'm currently in sales. What's going on now with the health care bill is healthy. It's a great thing that Congress is debating this. It's a great thing that you have some senators that are looking at this and backing up and saying, whoa, we want this to be better. Why? Obamacare was a disaster. It is a disaster. It's falling apart. It was rushed through in the middle of the night. No Republicans voted for it. Most of the Democrats didn't even read it. If you remember, Nancy Pelosi said, what, we have to pass it before we know what's in it. So it's healthy what's going on with this bill. Now, to someone else's point where they mentioned about trying to erase Obamacare, well, if someone is trying to right a wrong, is that erasing someone, or is it trying to do the right thing? There are a lot of things during the past 8 years that Obama did that kept this country stagnant. It kept our economy sitting still. We saw some little increases, but not much. A lot of the things President Trump has done so far, besides keeping his promises, has been to take away a lot of these regulations that Obama put in place that stifled businesses. Now, if you call that erasing a legacy or erasing a person, I think that's a great thing, because what we need in this country, one, is a president who is going to stand up for the American people. We have that. We need a president who is going to keep his promises, and we have that. So I like what President Trump is doing so far. I like the fact that he's letting Congress run its course in the health care bill.
Time for one more comment before we take our first break. Yes, ma'am. You are?
Courtney Madden. I'm a nonprofit executive from Boston, and I grew up with Romney Care, if you will, in Massachusetts. And the one thing that I'm striking about this conversation is that we're talking about debating in Congress. We're not. This was pushed through without public hearings. We're not debating, we're campaigning. It's sound bites. We're not sitting down and actually saying, okay, this doesn't work, but we need to make sure that Americans are healthy and have access to quality health care, and having a conversation. I would much rather see our leaders negotiating around this.
Would you like
than
to see,
campaigning.
you know, Chuck Schumer, for example, saying, let me get together with Republican senators, let me get some folks from my side, let's all sit down and talk about this? And are you disappointed that that hasn't happened?
I'm disappointed with both Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell that that hasn't happened. Sit down, have a conversation, because America needs to solve this and move forward.
That may happen. I mean, you know, that may be where they find themselves next week.